Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fabulous episode of the Healthcare Trailblazers podcast in person today with the incredible Hal Rosenbluth. Hal is a serial entrepreneur, has done some incredible things in his life, and has some amazing books, as you can see behind us here. So, Hal, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Right now you're in healthcare, but I think that your first couple endeavors are fascinating as well. So let's take a step back before you forayed into healthcare. There was a travel agency. Tell me about your beginnings.
Well, in 1974, I graduated university and joined a family business, which was, your typical travel agencies back there. People would come and book a trip somewhere or what have you. So I joined. I didn't want to. I would have much rather been a criminologist, but I saw my dad being overworked and getting a little bit ill from the whole thing. So I said I'd go and pitch in, and I did so, and saw that there was a need for corporate travel, for companies to manage the travel. It was unmanageable, or so they thought. But with technology and a number of software products that we developed, we were able to create the travel management industry. We like creating industries, finding an unknown, unmet need. So nobody knew you could manage it. And we did, and we grew it into from a $20 million local agency to a $6 billion global travel management company.
That's wild. Who started the company? Your father?
My great-grandfather.
Wow.
Helping people immigrate to the United States from Europe.
Yep.
In 1892.
Okay.
And then it went to my grandfather, and then to my father. And
What did travel look like for your great-grandfather?
Helping people get from Odessa and other parts of Europe to the United States for $25.
Wow.
And then he'd go and meet them up at Ellis Island, bring them to Philly.
Oh, wow.
Help them get a job. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Help them get a job.
Yeah. So then they could bring over another relative.
Fascinating. This was all boat travel, I take it, because
it was all steamship travel. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That's fascinating. And then, so your family has really seen, the travel industry just change so much over steamships to trains and planes, and that's so interesting. So then your father grew it to a $20 million business, but it was still, you're saying, was eating him up. It was too much.
And it was like, hey, I'd like to go to the Caribbean, or can you get me a ticket to fly to Florida or something to that effect.
Yeah. And what were some of those basic from a leadership perspective as an executive, what were some of those things that you brought in that enabled it to scale from 20 million to $6 billion?
Changed the culture of a company from everybody thinking they were God's gift to travel to recognizing that if you focus on your people and remove everything that's at the forefront of their eyes, like bureaucracy and politics and things like that, and create a happy environment, then the only thing left for them to focus on are the customers. And so it was key to us to figure out what they needed, and they didn't have anything. So we, all of a sudden started servicing GE, FMC, Arco, and then went on to, JP Morgan and Oracle and Intel, and then all around the world, Philips, things like that.
And was that a new concept, the entire concept of managing corporate travel?
Completely, yeah.
Interesting.
That's what we like to do. Just when people don't think they can do something, or something's impossible, or just don't even think about it, that's what gets me excited, is to kick back and just observe, understand the needs of others, not our needs. But by fulfilling their needs, it's better for us as a company and all of the people that we work with.
And how long did it take you to get to that $6 billion?
15 years maybe. Yeah, but
Awesome.
it was pretty quick to the first billion, and then it was quicker after that, and things. We were growing. I mean, we had single source contracts globally.
What does that mean? Single source?
That means the corporations, their folks had to use our company for their travel.
You were the single source of their travel.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we had 6,000 people around the world that would take their reservations, and
you had 6,000 employees.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But I also saw eventually that this would all go online. So we bought an online travel company.
Okay.
And decided to.
I'm sorry, just to understand, because for people, I mean, for I grew up in the 2000s. It was a very different world, probably even by then. But just to understand this perfectly, you had 6,000 people, literally, so people would call in, they're answering phones, they pick up the phone, where do you want to go? And then they would manually put together a ticket and mail it out?
No, go into computers.
Okay.
But then when you could begin to self-book, I saw this is going to change. So I bought a company that did just that and cannibalized our business, bifurcated our pricing so that if you called in for reservation, the cost was X per reservation. If you did it yourself, it was X minus an awful lot. And so the companies would save money. We would save money. People create these win-loses. That don't work. Everybody's got to win in just about anything you do, or it's short-lived.
So this is actually a really, really interesting point, because I think because what you're describing is a company of 6,000 people that are manually doing a job that then got essentially not fully automated, but definitely augmented and became a lot more efficient through technology, through the internet, right? And we're kind of at the next phase of that right now with AI. And so I just want to kind of juxtapose the two and hear your thoughts on, a lot of the fears around, oh, well, is this new technology going to take over people's jobs? And you kind of lived through that. So talk to me a little bit about that time. Was there that fear when you brought that in? And then I assume it was doing a lot of the work that other people were doing, otherwise it wouldn't cut costs. So how was that whole dynamic?
No, it wasn't a fear, it was an opportunity. We wanted to get out there first. And we're so successful that American Express acquired us. At the time, we were the second largest globally. They were the first, and there was very little, pricing pressure, and so we sold. And
how long did you stick around with American Express, or did you just?
No, I didn't at all, because when I met with them, I said, look, you don't want me sticking around. It's not in your best interest. People will keep on coming back to me. I want them. It's your company. I want them to come to you. All I ask is that you do a best of breed for the executive positions. And they did. Right. They lived up to everything they said.
Yeah, good for them. So you sell a company for $6 billion. What is the next stage?
No, I sold a $6 billion company. I didn't sell it.
Sorry, you sold a $6 billion company.
Yeah.
What is that? I mean, that's an incredible exit, whatever it was. What does the next couple of days look like for you?
After I sold the company? Emotional. It was very emotional because I went around the world to all of our regional offices and explained why, because no one ever thought we would sell. And everybody that worked at the company loved the company. We were, one of the 100 best to work for in America, a similar thing in Europe, in Asia. So that was emotional. But after spending 4 days running around the world, I ended up at my cattle ranch in North Dakota, and I think I had a seizure. In fact, I'm pretty sure I had a seizure, and it was emotional. Yeah.
So it was actually a painful experience, to an extent.
It was very painful for me personally, because I'm always thinking, okay, what about our people? But since American Express did live up to everything, they were all gainfully employed, and that made me happy.
Nice. Like you said, win-win.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so let's move into the next stop. What'd you do after that? Because you said you're someone that likes to create industries, and this wasn't the first one that you kind of shaped. And so, what was the next chapter? What'd you do?
So I created a cocoon for myself where I surrounded myself with 8 monitors that would bring in news feeds and other things from around the world, and I just sat there with everything at the same decibel level, just try and see what that next thing might be. And what came through after weeks was that Massachusetts had just passed universal health care, which was great, except that nobody could get an appointment or a doctor. So it became obvious that what was needed was affordable, accessible, high-quality care. So in looking through every aspect of that and partnering with Peter Miller, who was at the time president of Johnson & Johnson's Janssen division, we figured that we would need to make it convenient, so it needed to be in pharmacies, not big boxes. That we needed to have technology that focused on how a nurse practitioner would provide service, and then use that technology to have any script go to the top. So they walk out of our clinic and write in and get their script if that's what they needed. And that grew to 2,500 locations or something to that effect.
Over what period?
It was pretty quick.
Right.
We had contracts with Rite Aid, Albertsons, Osco, Savin, Eckerd, a whole bunch of them, and Walgreens. And then I was having dinner with the president of Walgreens and said, would you like to take a minority stake in our company? And he said, no, I want to purchase the whole thing. I said, well, we're not for sale. He goes, no, I want the whole thing. Well, at the time we were funded by private equity, so I had an obligation to go back to them and say, these folks want to acquire us. They said, well, let's see what happens. So I went and I talked with them, and they acquired us.
Long story short. Wow. So, and at that point, you were at 2,500 locations. You were well beyond that, or?
It was a combination of corporate on-sites, which are more like urgent care, where we had doctors, nurses, dentists, everything for, corporations, Disney World, Intel, on and on and on. So the people, it was right there on site. And when I was at Walgreens, I purchased the 2 largest ones. Mm-hmm. So when you take those and the clinics, which we had put in, it was about, around that number.
Fascinating. So it wasn't just pharmacy. You had many little clinics all over. And you were doing corporate healthcare.
Yeah.
You were doing...
Yeah.
But you were also having Albertsons and these different areas.
Well, I had to get rid of all those contracts to be acquired by Walgreens.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then that became... And then what did Walgreens do with that? But where was the synergy there? What did Walgreens do with it?
Well, Walgreens makes their money in the back, in other words, in the pharmacy, not selling trinkets and other things in the front. So the idea was to create a catchment for prescriptions, and that's what we did. And I created a ecosystem for them, and they asked me to become president of Walgreens Health and Wellness, which we're responsible for 48 of the $63 billion in annual revenue. We did that, and then, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years later, I said, no mas. I I would prefer to go watch my daughter play soccer for Penn State, and we flew around the country for every one of her games. And
Wow.
yeah.
So that was stop number 2.
Right.
Industry number 2. Stop number 2. All right. What's next? This is a fascinating story.
Yeah. Well, we recognized what we were doing with brick and mortar could be digitized.
Okay.
And it really hadn't been digitized. And we wanted to make it as equitable and as cost effective for everybody. So we would take the most expensive part of healthcare, which is chronic diseases, and provide a personalized, daily plan for each person who had that particular chronic disease, and a lifestyle program to go along with it. Or they could have one without the other, or what have you.
And I'm sorry, this was direct to the patient, or?
This was through initially Independence Blue Cross.
Okay.
And then it expanded to other companies, many of which were those that they serviced as well. So, yeah.
Okay. So, and what was the delivery mechanism to the patients? How were they getting?
It was online, it was mobile.
Okay.
The whole idea, was to be mobile,
Okay.
and to be fast, and to be easy, and to be non-intrusive, but using tools like AI and machine learning and so on and so forth, we were able to match the person with their medical issues and a solution to get them on the road to.
And is this what you're doing currently?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me more about it. How's it coming along? I mean, was this post 2022? When did you start this?
Maybe 7 years ago.
Oh, okay. It's been a couple minutes.
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time looking back as to dates and things like that. It's hard enough. I think I'm going into cognitive decline anyway. So,
aren't we all? The time that we live in, I think, is giving everybody cognitive decline. Hopefully.
Believe me, it is.
But no, I say that because a lot of people. I think that when it takes 5, 10, the first thing you do is 15 years. I think it's a really important lesson. That's why I ask those questions, is for people to understand that things take time, and usually that first thing that you do takes a lot of time, and then you learn a lot of tools and you pick up a lot of skills that you can use for the next one, and maybe the next one goes a little bit quicker. But things don't just happen. And that's why I ask those.
Yeah, no, you're right. But at the same time, you've got to be fast, but you can't be reckless. You have to have absolute quality in everything you do, especially since it's digitized. You have to have all the quality and all the certification and so forth. But once you have something that nobody else does, you got to run as fast as you possibly can, and that's always been beneficial to businesses that I've been honored to lead.
And do you still tend to raise funds for these new companies that you start?
No, we're doing quite well. No need for any additional funds. No.
Yeah. Well, the next question I'll ask is about funding. Given the fact that you don't need to raise funds, and in the past you have raised funds, what's your framework around choosing to go and raise? It could be a positive. It could be a negative. What's your framework?
Friends and family, right off the bat, just people who have invested alongside of me in the past. We were oversubscribed in one day. It was wild. I was signing contracts on driveways and things like that. And then down the line, Independence wanted to take a minority stake, and they did.
Okay.
But we haven't needed.
So that was a strategic partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So strategic money is a different story.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And then more recently, I know you wrote a book. So, and it's not your first book. So tell me about your career as an author and what inspired you to even start writing. And I think that answered the question.
Yeah, pretty much. The first book that I wrote was considered sacrilege, at least the title was. It was called The Customer Comes Second.
The anti-Bezos, okay.
Yeah, with the byline and other secrets to exceptional service.
Okay.
And it was all about focusing on your people first and how to do it and so on and so forth. It immediately became a New York Times bestseller, taught in universities around the world. It's now in like 4 or 5 languages. And this goes back 25, 30 years. And, now, companies are trying to focus on their people. But at the time, if you said the customer comes second, it was like, what are you, out of your mind? Well, reality is, if your people don't come first, they're not going to care. And you can't fake it. I mean, you can't fake service. It's like farming, which I love. You can't fake farming. You can't say, hey, come look at my corn, it's knee high by the 4th of July and it's all browned out. It is what it is.
You're either farming or you're not farming.
That's what happens. People, Aretha Franklin she wrote the song that I've always lived by, which is, who's zooming who? You can't Zoom people. Everybody, I believe, is born with the innate ability to sniff out whether somebody's telling the truth or not. So tell the truth.
Yeah.
It's going to catch up to you.
Yeah.
And when you tell the truth, so do the people in your company, because they know it's the right thing to do and it's okay. You don't have to fake it. Look, when you're talking to somebody if they're, full of crap or not.
Yeah.
So does everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think it's actually a skill that I'm fascinated by. I think that I have a friend he's a lawyer who built a large healthcare business and he sold it. And he told me that the thing that he gained most from his career in law was sitting in depositions and just tuning that ability to know when someone's lying.
Oh, yeah.
And like when you're interviewing people, when you're talking to people. So how have you kind of honed that? Because everyone has some sort of innate sense, but people are deceived pretty easily. From the political class to otherwise. So how do you hone that skill?
First of all, I do think it's innate in a lot of people. I think it has to do with their upbringing to a great degree. And emotional intelligence, understanding people, what their motivations are. But I still believe you can walk up to anybody on the street and they may be deceived for a little bit. Yeah, they catch on.
It's going to come around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the nature of lies, right? The nature of untruthfulness is to bite its own tail. It's not sustainable.
Right. Yeah.
What are some examples of when you say caring for your people? That's obviously a general concept. What are some real examples that a company that cares for their people does versus one that doesn't?
Giving them the proper training, making sure they have the right leadership, removing bad leadership, and removing bad people if they happen to make it in. Human resources, I believe, is the most important, and the head of human resources should be tied to the hip with the CEO.
Jack Welch mindset about it?
That was his mindset?
Big, yeah.
I haven't spent much time understanding how other leaders lead, but he obviously was successful. So you hire the right people, and then it's not just the pay; it's the communications within the company, within each operation, what have you, giving people the opportunity and the training to advance. Understanding what's going on in their personal lives and be there for them, where they could go to human resources and say, I had this issue at home, and then the company would take care of it.
Huh.
We had a corporate psychologist that we kept on a retainership so anybody could go to that person.
I love that.
And we would just get one invoice, just the amount, nothing else to it. You know, this month it was $37,000, you know, whatever. So the trust was there so that people would feel, you know, comfortable going and saying, you know, I'm having a problem with my, you know, my marriage. One of my kids is really sick. I don't know what to do. You know, is there lots of things like that. I would actually send out crayons and white paper and ask them to draw a picture of what the company means to them. And you get a lot of insight out of that. You're not going to find it in a survey. And one came to me from our Atlanta operation, and it was a very colorful picture of a family around the holidays with everybody feeling warm. The dog was on the ground. Kids were playing jacks. There was a Christmas tree all adorned and fire going, and it said before. And I flipped it over, and it was in pencil. Fire was out. God knows what happened to the dog. You know, the kids were shivering, and it said, now. So I called the person on the phone. I said, what's the matter? And he said, well, we're all going to lose our jobs. I said, no, you're not. He said, well, I understand that what we do is being moved to another operation. I said, yeah, it is, but you're all going to have something new. And what I had found out was there was a breakdown in communications between our accounting and financial organization and our people there. So they didn't know it. So they were scared, literally scared. Things like that. One person in one of our California offices that had his first leg on the ladder going up with the pot of gold at the top, and the other leg was shackled to the ground by a computer. And I called him up. What's going on? He says, I can't get ahead. I said, why not? Because my baud rate is too slow. I said, I didn't even know what a baud rate was. I said, what's a baud rate? Because the speed, I can't be productive because it's too slow. So
his literal like bandwidth, like
yeah,
internet or something.
Yeah. So we went and changed all that out, and lots of things like that.
That's a crazy, out of the box idea that seems to have really paid off. I mean, you just said two examples of real.
Well, I served tea to everybody that joined the company, and we'd fly them in from around the world. And
which company is this? All of them, or
sorry,
which company is this?
Rosenbluth International.
That's the travel company.
Travel company, okay. Yeah.
So you any new employee, you'd fly them to your office, and you'd sit down with them.
All the people, we would fly them in. Didn't matter if they're from, an office in Vienna for the Atomic Energy Agency, or Riyadh for Saudi, or actually it was Dammam for Saudi Aramco. We had our own culture inside our company. Outside, okay, whatever it is. But in the company, we had our culture. But yeah, we'd fly everybody in, maybe 20, 30 a week, and then I would serve them all tea around a conference table and talk about what their expectations were and so on and so forth, because I wanted to show them, hey, I'm serving you tea. Don't take me too seriously, but take seriously what you do.
They would talk about their expectations, or you would talk about your expectations?
Both. I wanted to hear what they had to say.
They wanted out of the...
Yeah.
This is fascinating because I've dreamt of this style of leadership. Couple years ago, as I was growing my company, I had this dream of my theory was, look, people spend more time at work than they do with their family,
yeah,
and
exactly.
it's really important. And most people no one is ever going to make as much money as they think they deserve. That's just part of life, right? And so people are going to make finite amounts of money, but most people don't actually have an issue with the quantity of money. It's more the quality of the money and where those dollars are going to. And a lot of people have, and in fact, I'd probably say the less you earn, the higher chances that you have a challenge with, managing managing those dollars. And so my thought was having a nutritionist, marriage counselor, or like a psychologist, a fitness coach, and a financial management, consultant at the company. I've kind of I haven't executed that very well. We did small things, but I actually started moving in the direction where feeling like it's a nice technical concept, but people will just like take advantage of nice things that a company does for them.
No.
And so to sit here and hear the way that you've done this and you've got some proof in there is fascinating to me. And that's why I'd love to hear more.
There's still 1,500 active Rosenbluth associates on their own Facebook group. That was 25 years ago. And we all still communicate with each other.
Wow.
I love that company.
That's really cool. So we started talking about your author career. So let's and you gave us the big sigh, but that's what you wrote the book on. You wrote the book on Your Customer Comes Second. Brilliant title, absolutely brilliant. I don't know if that was at the time when like this Bezos-y concept was all.
Oh no, it was always a customer comes first.
Yeah. So that's really smart.
I like to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, right. Come second. No, I like that. It's great. And so with this new book, Hypochondria, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, first see if I still have my thermometer here. No.
You can get it. Is there a thermometer?
No, I think I'll make it through without getting ill now. I am very fortunate that I've lived the life of a hypochondriac, and at the same time been a successful executive in the healthcare industry. Somewhat mutually exclusive, but it's really not. And so I decided, along with my co-author, Marnie Hall, that we would take my life experience and combine it with self-deprecating stories of myself, embarrassing stories, but funny things that people could relate to, and factual information as well. Because out of the $6 trillion in healthcare spend, according to Harvard study, 16% of that is unnecessary.
Yep. So
the costs, it's hypochondria, but it's also the hidden cost of healthcare in America. We cost everybody so much that your premium, my premium, whoever's in a group or has insurance, they go up. The copays go up. It's not fair to everybody else that I'm costing our company a lot because of that. So, I go through my life story, and Marnie, who's just brilliant, she added the real facts to what was going on, her opinion of how whacked out I was or not. And it's been a fun time because here, once again, nobody wants to talk about hypochondria. They're ashamed. You don't get necessarily diagnosed as a hypochondriac. There's no, what they call in medical terms, CPT codes.
Yeah.
And so there's probably more than there actually are that would admit it. But you don't have to be. But we're programmed by the television commercials, 9 an hour of pharmaceutical commercials that play on you, which, if you have migraines and this and that, take whatever. And then all of a sudden, the person's, tiptoeing through the tulips and rowing a boat and doing all these great things. So you say, I think I got a migraine. And you run to the doctor, you get that script, so on and so forth. And the prices are starting to go up. You don't have a migraine. You were conditioned by these constant barrage of pharma commercials. I'm not even thinking against pharmaceutical companies. I think they're what I refer to as mackerels in the moonlight. They stink and shine at the same time. Do a lot of good, save a lot of lives, so on and so forth. But they also can create hypochondria, illness, anxiety disorder. But I'm a capitalist. They're perfectly fine making as much money as they can. But there are ways to reduce the costs for the healthcare system and those who are insured by providing an equitable series of tools for hypochondriacs to, potentially remove themselves from that. I'm a cognitive hypochondriac because I no longer worry about things. Worry, depression, things like that they're out there, and then these commercials come on and so on and so forth. And but I found that by getting a full body scan and a brain scan, there was nothing wrong with me, so I didn't have to worry till the next scan. Getting a full blood panel test, checking out how your white cells, but it's too expensive. So I believe private equity can get involved, bring the cost of these scans down so that everyone can go get one. Same thing with the blood tests. And then when people find out they're worried for no reason, there's costs of going for this test and that test, and they disappear. So there is a way to bring down the costs. It's just too expensive at the moment. But that'll change. Technology will change that. I'm beginning to see that already.
Let's take a step back for a second. So it sounds to me like this, like hypochondria is kind of a microcosm of a larger issue, which is the cost of care that's spent in this country, the ridiculous spend on healthcare, on care in this country. Yeah. Much of it is not necessary. And so you've taken kind of a corner of it that you personally identify with and are using that to really magnify the issue. But let's kind of take a step back. What's some of the data, what's some of the information that you have around the amount of care that the amount of spend that's actually preventable?
According to Harvard, in research that they did, 16% is unnecessary.
And that's 16% of $6
trillion. Yeah, yeah. So bucks. Think about taking that. Everybody, the cost of healthcare, blah blah. Well, nobody talks about the unnecessary and the uses of the ERs and all these other things. Because a hypochondriac is the only time fact and fiction are the same. Because you have the symptoms. You feel that you have whatever you have, but you don't. Or you have all the symptoms and you do have. So the hypochondriac's living with uncertainty. And, uncertainty, it's kind of like investing in the stock market. when there's uncertainty, things basically stop. Or, I'll take a chance. But when there's certitude, like, okay, interest rates are going to go down, in 6 weeks, people take that into consideration. They make their investments or not. Inflation's going up. I mean, those things are certain. Hypochondria, it's not certain. You live in the world of the unknown until you realize, what you're doing to yourself.
Yeah. So what are some of those solutions for? What are some of those practical solutions for mitigating the preventable?
Well, there's a number of things. One is cognitive behavioral therapy. In fact, the birthplace of that is here in Philadelphia.
No way.
Yeah, Judith Beck the Beck Institute was her dad started this years ago. So that's, but that's only applicable to those people who want to do something about it. The digitization of chronic diseases and lifestyle programs that go with it is something that our company, New Ocean Health, started a number of years ago. And it provides on a personalized basis what to do every day. If you're diabetic, if you have COPD, what have you. And it's called the voyage, and you go on this voyage, and depending upon whether you perform that function, or we'll take diabetes for a second. If your hemoglobin, forget the hemoglobin. If your daily glucose is going way up, it says, hey, you better do X or what have you. It also can go to your doctor or any provider. What's interesting also is that you can have a loved one know whether you're taking your medications or not. They can call you on the phone and say, hey, Dad, Mom, you didn't take your medicine. So there's a lot of things like that. We use behavioral science in building all of our software. Our clinical team is phenomenal in that respect. So when you have a great clinical team and a great IT team that's been experienced in this stuff for years and years, you have good outcomes. And we just want to, it's a natural extension of our clinics, which were brick and mortar. And now how do you get to more people? Well, you digitize it. You make it easy.
I love that. I love that you have behavioral scientists here. For like 4 years, there's this guy named Scott Adams. You ever heard of him? He's an author.
No, I don't know anybody.
Okay. The Dilbert comics, I've never read them, but that's apparently what he's famous for.
I heard of that.
Yeah, so he's the Dilbert guy. Yeah. And he wrote a bunch of books. And his lens on life is all about persuasion. And he wrote a bunch of very interesting books. And so I had this thought that for exactly what you guys are thinking along the same lines, why don't we use persuasion inside of healthcare to get patients to change their behavior around taking their blood pressure every day, taking their medication every day. I mean, we do it in sales. We're manipulating people all over with ads. I mean, we're taking that science and using it for, I'm not going to say evil, but not necessarily good. Why can't we take that same science and apply it to figuring out exactly how to switch this patient's brain right. and get inside of their behavior? So tell me a little bit more about what you guys are doing.
Well, that's why AI can be beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on both sides of the whole AI issue. I love what it can do and all the great stuff that comes out.
You love it?
No, I'd like to start a business which gets rid of it too. Only because just one nefarious user, one state actor, one anything, get rid of all the good, take down the electrical grid, whatever the heck it is. So that part bothers me until we come up with an antidote to that. But AI, we look at it for engagement. To your point, what are the behaviors of this individual, and how do we continue to engage with them to improve their health? Gets us into the personalized medicine. You're different than somebody else. What turns you on may not turn somebody else on. So we have to be that close to the user to be able to motivate them to do the right thing.
Yeah. Fascinating. So this is New Ocean Health.
Yeah, New Ocean Health Solutions, actually.
Mm-hmm. It's all about the solutions, right?
Yeah, it's got to be a solution, and also the fact of making it possible for people to get scans and blood work at a very reasonable price. So that's why it needs private equity money to grow. I don't think it's going to get there any other way.
Yeah. Would you be comfortable? I'm gonna pause. I mean, for a second, would you be comfortable getting a little bit more personal, like life advice wise? Or no?
Yeah, if
talk about money and finances and lifestyle.
Sure,
and
yeah, absolutely.
We do that.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah.
We could do it separately if you want, but
no,
it's What? Okay, good. So I guess kind of to segue into that, I'm gonna try to get as deep as you'll allow me here, but you don't need to be doing any of this. You live in a beautiful area. You have seems like a wonderful family, and you don't need to be doing any of this. So why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep working?
Why not?
Well, there's added stress that comes with work, and there's added...
Yeah, but stress at work is if you don't like what you're doing, or you don't like the people you work with, or whatever. You don't have stress when you enjoy something. I've always enjoyed being able to help people with what I consider, the most important thing in life, which is living, and being able to be with your family, your loved ones, enjoy life. There's so many variables that go against enjoying life that it's fulfilling to me to see other people happy and healthy. I once had a film crew go around one of the squares in Philadelphia. I forget which one it was. Anyway, Independence Square, maybe. And just asking people, when they close their eyes, what do they pray for? Everyone prays for the health and well-being of their family. That's what really got us into the clinic business. That's what's top of mind for them when they pray. So why not make them come true?
Okay. And then trying to understand your mindset a little bit. When you grew up, I mean, your father was running a $20 million multi-generational business. Mm-hmm. I mean, what was the economic situation when you were growing up?
Not much.
Not much?
No. We we had a very, very modest upbringing.
Where'd you grow
up? Well, I grew up in Germantown, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then moved to Elkins Park, where I grew up. Yeah.
Grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So, but you've made a lot of money in your life, I have to presume.
Yeah.
Is that
true?
Has that brought you? I mean, there's the basic corny questions like, has that brought you happiness? Or
yeah. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt at all.
Yeah. My theory is that because some people love to just be I think it's posturing, but some people love to act like a little false humility and kind of be like, oh, money's nothing. And then other people say money's everything. My theory, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is that money only solves money issues, but 90% of things are money issues, including health and relationships. And
True. It's what you do with the money. You use it for good, or you waste it. Do you do bad things with it, or do you do good things with it? It's up to the individual.
Yeah. So how do you recommend, because maybe this was you, like I've got some friends that also, I've got, there's somebody near us that grew his father's business into $1 billion a year in revenue. It's a massive dental business. And it was really interesting to hear him and his kind of tenets and, stuff like that, but tenets for success. But I look at somebody like that, and at the end of the day, they went from 1 to 10. That's very, very different than going from 0 to 1, right? So I don't know if you could speak to that experience 100%, but I think you can to a large extent. So what's your advice for somebody like me that's trying to go from 0 to 1, not have the luxury to go from 1 to 10?
Find something that nobody else is thinking about, and solve it. Solve some problem, and then run with it as fast as you can. You may need funds, there's lots of different things, but yeah, you've heard this a million times. Surround yourself with really great people. I love that, and I love seeing them go on to become executives of other companies. Even if I lose them and they become a CEO somewhere else or whatever, God bless them. Create an environment where people want to come to work with you, not for you. And yeah, it's a grind. It doesn't just happen. You got to say to yourself, okay, this is going to take me some time. Maybe there's no rush. How do you get yourself in a position where it doesn't matter if you succeed or fail? And then do your best to succeed. And share that success with others. That tends to start moving from 0 to 1 to 2 to 4, and then...
I think it's very wise advice, because I think a lot of people, and I've tried this on myself and it did not work. I think a lot of people like the idea that desperation breeds innovation, and they try to put themselves in situations, or they advise other people to put themselves in situations where you have nothing left to lose, or you have everything to lose, and things like that. And I disagree strongly with that. I think that it freezes you, it paralyzes you, and I love what you just said, where put yourself in a position where you can win or lose, and you still essentially win, and then try to win.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely.
Yeah, that's great. Wow, well, this was a lot of fun. I can sit with you for another 10 hours, but thank you so much for spending time. For anyone that's looking, have you read Hypochondria for Audible yet?
It's
You have?
Yes, yeah.
Did you do a voice actor, or did you do it yourself?
No, an actor. No, really. Listen to me.
Yeah,
who would want to listen to this voice?
I would listen to you all the way back to Kingston,
Pennsylvania. There are people
that do it professionally with a very cool accent, and they make it sound
very good. Yeah.
I don't know. Jack, I listened to his book. Jack Welch read it himself, and he's heavy Boston accent, and very But anyways, find Hypochondria on Audible. Find it on Amazon, and you can follow New Ocean Health Solutions.
Very nice.
Where?
Just go to our website, newoceanhealth.com.
On the interwebs. Mm-hmm. Find Hal on LinkedIn. I know you're relatively active there.
Yeah, I am.
Look up, is Marnie active on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, she's active on everything.
Nice.
You kidding me?
Look up, yeah. Awesome. Well, this was really a pleasure.
Hey,
thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.